Before we begin, please be advised that this show may contain some adult themes and language that may not be suitable for all listeners. Now, on to our show.
Tell me, do these people survive?
We're going to find out today. Okay. Welcome to the Sippin Saga Society, where we cover histories, mysteries, and overall weird ass shit. My name is Karina, and joining us today are Nev and Christina.
Hello.
Yay! Christina, what are you drinking today?
So I have it's called a Sprucker.
The fuck?
Yep. And it's Orange Dream.
Oh, I see it
Is
now.
it alcoholic or is it a
It
soda?
is not. It's a soda.
Ooh.
I love
And
the diversity of our beverages.
yeah, well, so I actually get these and it's made with honey, which is why I also like it.
Mm.
It's a fire brewed craft soda. And the only
It's
place
not
I
even
know
me.
where to get these is actually Andy's has
That
them.
makes sense. What? But that makes sense.
Like the ice cream place, yeah. But yeah, I get these like if I'm not because I'm not really big on ice cream. Personally, it's just not one of my things that I really like to enjoy. But yeah, they have these, and so while everyone else is getting like a little sundae and stuff, I'll ask for a Sprucker, and they have these, and I really like it.
Nice. I had ice cream today.
I
It
want to
was an
call someone a.
avalanche.
Huh?
Did you
How
like
fitting.
how I made that last segment's beverage?
Yeah.
I was like, is this awful? Oh well. And then I did it.
In theme.
I
I'm
love a good theme.
What are you drinking,
Me?
Karina? I feel like we
Oh,
never ask you what
I
you're
I
know.
drinking.
love that. Well, it's because I usually start off. So I wanted to really fit the theme, and I looked up
Oh, this is it. What is it?
Mountain Dew cocktails.
Stop it.
I have. I am so proud of this. I was so excited. You have no
Does it taste
idea.
good?
I don't know yet. So this is it's Mountain Dew and rum because I felt
Oh,
like they
God.
kept finding rum.
Oh yeah.
They just
A
kept finding
homage to it.
rum. Yeah. Oh, well, and I didn't cover this either. In the tail section, they did find rum. They found two bottles of rum. So
Like big
they,
or
uh,
little.
I don't know, but I know they
Oh,
drank two of them. But for the mountain people, well, they had
you
two
know
of
how it
them.
is.
They drank one there at the tail section when they found it. I don't know if it was a travel size or like a full one.
Ooh.
Imagine just, I mean, I'm assuming it was just little sips, but they had also found another, so they found the two rum bottles and they took one with them on their voyage whenever they went on their expedition
Oh,
for
cool.
energy. And I was like, oh, nice. Rum for everyone.
Rum for everyone.
So this drink is 1.5 ounces of orange juice, 1.5 ounces of spiced rum, and also Mountain Dew. So I thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious.
That's a
We
good
need
one.
some levity. And it was the perfect drink for this specific
I'm
um
excited.
thing.
It looks like a
Um,
sunrise.
I don't know.
It looks really good.
It's actually really good. It's it's got a weird little aftertaste, honestly. It's like almost vanilla-y. I think it's the spiced rum.
Mm.
Yeah, but the orange juice helps. It's weird.
Hmm.
I definitely would try it, but I think maybe grenadine would help. It needs like a
Yeah.
little something.
Yeah. It's
And I may
messy.
have also watered it down a little because I didn't measure well.
Fair.
Yeah, I just did like two of the same quantity, like the same quantity of orange juice to rum, and then
Hmm.
added, it literally said Mountain Dew to taste. I
What?
don't know what that means. Just that whatever your heart desires, I
Yeah.
guess.
Measure with your heart.
Fill it. I don't know. Anyway, okay, Neb, what are you drinking?
Okay, I'm drinking a Sippin' Pretty. It's a fruited sour. Um, and it's supposed to have like Himalayan pink salt, papaya, no, sorry, guava, Aussie. Sorry, let me say that right. Aussie
Acai.
and elderberry, and
Mm.
it is not good.
No.
But
And it
no, I've
is
had
not good.
Colton got them because he thought I'd like them, but you guys know, I don't know if you know this about me, but I drink like dark beers. I don't really like sours unless they're like go-sees, like very specific. So the sour beer is not great,
I'm wondering if
but
I would like it because I love sours.
you would might maybe like it. I'll pack one in for you. They're cute.
Oh.
Even
Okay, then
but
I'll
like
sip it.
look at it. Like the packaging is just adorable, you know?
It's very
So
gorgeous. It's a gorgeous
yeah.
container. I love how usually Nev has like some sort of beer and I have like a cocktail of sort or whatever. And then Christina has the non-alcoholic option. I like
Yeah.
love that because it's like every time like I've noticed like we usually do it's usually like I'm drinking some sort of liquor. You're drinking some
Yeah.
sort of like beer. And Christina's
Yeah.
like, I found this Dr. Pepper. And I'm like,
I love it.
I know, I like that we all seem to have a theme and I enjoy
Mhm.
it. We
That'll
stay
be a
on brand.
fun. That'll be a fun, I
Just
don't
in
know,
case
like
the
QR
listeners do
code.
not know, I do not handle alcohol very well. That is why I do not have alcoholic drinks.
I usually just do whatever sounds good. So I just Google like whatever that week's episode's theme is or like like words for it and I'll be like, well, last week we picked Avalanche because I don't remember why. Like I think I was thinking of like, oh, what's
Mountains
some
last
mountain
week.
beverage? Yeah. So it was like,
Yeah.
Avalanche.
Oh
Terrible.
yeah, sorry. You're right. Avalanche. That was the
But
week
the week before
before.
that one was well, they're from Uruguay, so I did the Uruguayan um
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I just keep
curacao.
thinking about Coors because of the mountains. And I thought that was
Coors.
just so funny because that was one week Tina did have a beer and I was like, what is this?
It's Coors.
It's
It's
Coors.
Coors.
It's real Coors. She real cool. This week we will continue to use Miracle in the Andes by Nando Perrado as our source for our story. Um, and it's great because it's his firsthand account. When we last left, the group had lost many of their number to an avalanche. They had attempted to travel east in effort to find rescue and found the tail of the plane instead, but no rescue. The group then decided to use their last bit of strength to climb the mountain and head west in hopes that rescue would be on the other side. If their families could look at them now, after months on the slopes, they would be unrecognizable to them from the hardy young men that they used to be. They were thin, withered, and the hope they used to have was fading quickly. The ghosts of the 29 that they had lost haunted them, and they were just around. I mean, death is around every corner. There's body parts all over the place, if you guys remember from the last little bit.
Hmm.
They started their preparations for climbing west. They began to store meat in the snow while gathering clothes and equipment. So in our last section, they tried to travel east and they get to the tail, but they realize if they just keep going, they're just going to continue walking into the mountains. So this is the only direction that they had not made it in. They hadn't gone this way yet. The Andes had shown them how large and powerful that they were, and the boys had learned. They would face two great challenges on their trip. First, climbing that altitude would be challenging on anyone, but they were already weak from months of surviving on the mountain. The demands on their bodies would be rough. Their only hope was to leave before they were too weak to try. Their second challenge would be the danger of exposure. The nights were cold enough to kill, and there would be no hope of shelter on the mountain slopes. They had to figure out they would survive without freezing. They had found quilted bats of insulation in the tail section, and they used them to sew, like they used that insulation to sew it into a large sleeping bag that would be wide enough for three of them to go on this expedition. They had found a sewing kit in the mom's purse, and they took turns sewing this sleeping bag for three people.
That's so
Which I
sweet though.
think, I know, I thought it was the cutest little thing. I was like, because I'm just like, they've been up on this mountain. There's just these guys sewing this sleeping bag because it had to be strong enough to make it. Because if they didn't
Yeah.
have the sleeping bag, they were going to die.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you say three, like they're sewing three into one big one, is that what you're meaning? Or
It's big enough for 3 people, is what I meant.
yeah, because I'm assuming they'll obviously body heat, obviously
Mm-hmm.
being
Oh
together.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
And if they strip down naked, they would even
yeah.
stay warmer. That's just,
Oh, really?
yeah, survival information that might work for them.
I
I
don't
They don't
want
didn't
need it
realize
now.
that.
I feel like they made
Is
it
it because
out
the
okay.
body to body contact? Is that why you stay warmer?
Yeah. I
Or
think
skin to skin or whatever? Like,
yeah, the skin to skin, you have less like layers stopping
hmm.
you.
Oh, that makes sense actually. I never thought of
Oh,
it
that
like
that
that.
does make sense because they don't
Yeah,
have
Ask
to.
Zach about it when he was in the field. Colton's told me some stories. Normally they keep their boxers on, but
fair.
You guys are like Eskimo siblings, Christina. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
so
sorry.
close.
I
So close.
know.
Imagine, move your leg. That ain't my leg.
Roberto felt it was foolish to travel while there was still hope of rescue. But Nando insisted. They're not a rescue team, Roberto. They're looking for bodies. And yeah, like think about it. If they crashed in October, it's
Yeah.
the first week of December. I'm not thinking that like if okay, like if I get a call,
Realistically.
God forbid that like one of my family members is crashed into a mountain and it's been 2 months. I'm not sitting here thinking, yeah, these guys are still alive. Like
They're
I'm
great at survival. They're definitely
I don't care how good you are at survival. You crashed into a mountain. I'm not thinking you're doing good, regardless of how you're doing. You're not doing great.
fair.
So by the first week of December, the sleeping bag was done and everything was packed. Roberta kept finding reasons to delay the trip. He insisted that the sleeping bag needed reinforcing, and then they couldn't leave while there were people that needed medical attention, which I'm like, okay, we can't leave while there's people stranded from a fucking plane crash. Like, come on, everyone needs medical attention. We're on a side of a mountain.
Yeah, dude. Quit being
Finally,
a chicken shit.
he said, I haven't rested enough. I'll stay a little longer. Eventually,
It sounds like he's giving up though.
he is not, but I think he is hoping that they will find them, that
Okay.
they will get rescued.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. They had a strongly worded discussion, Nando and Roberto. We are running out of food and our friends are dying, said Nando. I picked a date. I'm leaving December 12th. If you aren't ready, I'll go without you. And
Period.
yeah, because he was like, I'm done. I'm
He's
tired
on
of
a
this.
mission. Yeah, he's like, it's now or never. I mean, essentially, like,
I feel
It's
like neither of
been,
them are wrong in this situation, but you can tell the difference between like somebody who's like, let's wait and see, and somebody who's like, no, I'm a doer. I need
hmm.
to
yeah,
do. We've waited, we've saw nothing. Let's
let's
change the
go.
course of plan. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously what we're doing isn't working. Nando dressed for the mountain climb by putting on 3 pairs of jeans and 3 sweaters. He wore 4 pairs of socks and covered those socks with plastic supermarket bags to keep them dry in the snow. We used to
So
do that when
smart.
we didn't have snowshoes.
So smart.
I remember doing that as a kid. I was poor.
Yeah, felt that.
And then he stuffed his feet into some rugby boots. Nobody knew what to say. This morning, there was a sense of finality in their departure. The temperature was perfect for climbing, and as they said their goodbyes, Nando handed Carlos the tiny red shoes. So, remember they had to stop before they went off. They stopped in that little town of Mendoza, and they had like done some shopping stuff before they flew out again.
Hmm.
And so the mom had bought little red shoes because her daughter had just had a baby boy, and she bought
Oh,
the little boy little
yeah.
red shoes. And so Nando handed the
Mm.
little one of the shoes to Carlos and said, "Keep one, and I'll keep the other one. And when I come back to you, we'll have the pair again."
Oh,
I'm definitely gonna cry later.
that's
100%.
so symbolic.
It's so beautiful. I'm gonna cry later. I already apologize for my crying voice. It is beautiful. It's
It's
beautiful.
like a promise. You know what I mean? It's like a hope. Yeah.
Anyway. The faces of those remaining at the wreckage were full of hope, and it was hard for Nando to look at them. But also, like, yeah, you're the guy fucking carrying the whole thing on your back. They saw him as confident, but his strength was just like panic and terror. And also, he's like 18. He's a child. barely an adult, you know?
Yeah.
Hmm.
If I
I mean,
die, oh, sorry, Christina.
that's a lot to carry at such a young age. I mean, you're just entering adulthood. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, that's very heavy. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
That's why they need the rum.
Yeah.
You need a little rum.
Hmm. If I die, he thought, my father will never know how I comforted my sister and kept her warm and how peaceful she looked in her white grave.
Oh my God.
Nando, it's time to go. I looked back at Carlitos and said, if you run out of food, I want you to use my mother and Susie. I'm ready to go. I know. Oh. What they didn't know before they started their journey was that the mountain that they would attempt to climb was one of the highest in the Andes with an elevation of nearly 17,000 feet.
Jesus Christ.
I know. I don't know what that is, but like that's a
That's a
lot of
lot.
feet,
Yeah.
That's
right?
a lot.
The mountain that a mountain that no experienced mountaineer would even think of going near without specialized gear and in peak condition. They're on this mountain after 2 months of not eating. And they're like,
Mm-mm.
well, this is what we do. We got our plastic bags. Let's go. They decided the best path was the shortest path, but because of that, they didn't like think ahead to see what would be easier. They just looked and saw this is the shortest way to the top, not necessarily the easiest way to the top. So they just like
Mm-hmm.
went straight up essentially,
Damn.
which is
Gotta
not
do
the
what
way
you
to do
gotta
it.
do, though.
Right. And I mean, they were kids, like they're just trying to make it.
They're not
They did
mountaineers.
no, I wouldn't know. Like I would probably think the same thing, like go the shortest way. It's faster.
Yeah.
They
Most
decided,
deadly.
right, it probably is. I think it literally was.
Oh,
They decided the best path was the shortest path, which would end up leading them through the mountain's steepest and most dangerous slopes.
great.
So, yep. Each step required intense effort with rest between every step. They spent the day climbing, but the snow started to melt, making them wade through mush. So then they tried to use their shoes, but then the shoes got melted, like wet with melted snow.
Yeah.
It's just
Oh.
slushy. They were on the verge of exhaustion, and the trip had barely begun. The mountains became steeper as they climbed, and good handholds were hard to find. My fingers felt thick and clumsy, limbs heavy with fatigue, and I couldn't feel my lungs. The high altitude was making them sick. Above 12,000 feet is hard. It's hard to escape the effects of altitude sickness. The body doesn't have long enough to acclimate to the thinning air, and they have already climbed 2,000 feet above that. Like,
And what a lot of people don't know is when you start getting those sickness thing, like the sickness starts hitting, what you should do is you should drop down like 100 feet to 200 feet and sit and wait 30 minutes to an hour before you go back up.
so the recommended amount that you should go up in elevation in a day is 1,000 feet. And they had already climbed 2,000 feet just that day. So, like, no wonder they're feeling terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's terrible because, like, it's not even a thing that you can even look at and see, like, this is an issue. Like, I can look at a rock, I can look at a mountain, I can look at snow, but, like, you're just going up and it's affecting you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that sucks. Like, you can't even point out the thing. It's just like, I'm just too high up in the world. I don't know why that annoys me so much, but it's like, God, I can't even see this thing. Anyway. The distance to the top was overwhelming. The only way to make it was to focus on something small and like cut the distance. Because if you're just looking from like here to like Kentucky, it's going to make me feel like it's taking forever to climb up this mountain, right?
Hmm.
So if instead of thinking like the peak is my goal, he started thinking of like, okay, I'm going to make it to that rock. And then from that
Ooh,
rock, I'm going to make it to the next rock and to the next shadow and to the next patch of snow and just kept focusing on whatever landmark he had chosen after he made it to that one thing. The only thing that mattered to him was just continuing on. The snow was endless, and eventually rocks started to jut from the snow. They were huge and at times blocked the view of the slopes ahead. Eventually, they were blocked by a steep snow-covered incline. The slope was smooth and impossible to grip. Nando managed to get up the slope. He like had this metal stick with him and he just basically he carved the steps and would go up the steps.
smart.
Roberto followed him, and then the last boy Tintin was stuck. Like his backpack was too heavy for him to keep going, and he was struggling to shift his balance where he was on that little incline thing.
Hmm.
If he stayed on the way he was going, he would be pulled off the side of the mountain because they're still climbing up a mountain.
Yeah.
And he was too heavy, but it was like pulling him back. So he ends up taking off the backpack and giving it to Roberto, and then finally managing to go up, balancing like balancing and fighting to stay up
Yeah.
while going up a mountain.
Jesus Christ.
Eventually, he reached the ledge and slumped in the snow. I'm too tired. I can't lift my legs. But they couldn't stay there. They had to find a place to rest for the night that was going to be secure and warmer, and you were going to be protected from the snow. So they kept going, and the slope was too rocky everywhere to find enough places to spread their sleeping bags. So as they go up the hill, it's becoming rockier and the terrain is becoming less forgiving and less flat. So there's nowhere for them to just lay down. As Nando climbed, he wedged his right foot on a crevice in the rock and reached up to grab a boulder, which he thought was secure. But when he tried to pull himself up, a rock the size of a cannonball broke free and it fell past him. And like everyone's behind him.
Oh
And so he was
no.
like, watch out below. The rock narrowly missed Roberto's head by inches. He
Oh
glared
my
at Nando.
God.
You son of a bitch. Are you trying to kill me?
Yeah.
Then he
I'd have been so
heaved.
pissed too, honestly.
Yeah, I would have been, what the hell, man? You know,
Exactly.
what the fuck are you doing up there?
Be fucking careful.
Yeah.
Are you in cahoots with the mountain?
Instant pissed,
Oh
honestly.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Then Roberto heaved forward and started crying.
Oh, you
I know.
know, yeah, same.
Yeah.
I would
That's a
too.
lot, honestly. Yeah.
I would be like, I made it this fucking far for you to take me out with a
With a
fucking rock.
rock.
Yeah.
It's a boulder. Like, Jesus Christ.
Okay, SpongeBob. It's not a boulder.
It's not a
It's
rock,
rock.
it's a boulder. And it's my friend. Not in this case.
Mm-mm. The
Yeah.
hopelessness
Oh,
was palpable. They wanted it to be over. They
I
wanted to
imagine.
rest. But once Roberto gathered himself, they kept going. And like, what is your other option? You sit there?
I mean, yeah.
Eventually, they found a shallow depression under a boulder and made camp. And the boulder was still warm from the sun.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
Oh, I was gonna say that was nice.
But
Upside.
I thought about this and I was like, okay, but I'm wondering if like warm, quote unquote, would be warm to me right now.
Probably not.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm just thinking about it like, I
They're
don't
like,
think
it's 55 degrees.
we have a different level of warm, but warmer than the surrounding snow. So, you like hang out with someone too much and they just like annoy you.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the middle of the snowy slopes, Nando and Roberto managed to be annoyed with each other. And it was like memorable enough to him that he wrote it in this book. And I
Oh.
love that because listen, Roberto was like, did you pee? Because we can't be getting in and out of the sleeping bag all night long. And then Nando was like, yes, I peed. Did you pee? I don't want you peeing in the sleeping bag. If anyone's gonna pee in this bag, it's gonna be you. And also be careful with those big feet. And I was like, okay,
Maybe he
rude.
added it for some like humorous.
Levity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh no,
honestly.
yeah, it's so sad. That's why I added it. I needed something.
His editor was like, I understand the story is really sad and you lost your brother and your sister and ate your friends, but could you like make it less morbid in some places?
Can you make it fun?
Add a sprinkle here and there, please.
Just make us feel better than this. Yeah. Oh no, and here's the thing is that although that I have really done my best to like make sure it's like a comprehensive story and that you're getting as much as like I think is like you're getting as much as possible in making them like and feeling the environment and like what the situation and the seriousness of it.
Yeah.
I have left out so much. Like there's so much more to this book, and I would highly recommend it. There's so much more, and you see so much of the individual people, and you find out their backstories and stuff, and like Nando's relationship to them, and it
Yeah.
makes it that much more intense.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like it's an amazing story and it's so inspiring, but like it really hits, you know? Like, it's crazy. It's such a good story. It's amazing. To be able to find levity even in those moments, I think is amazing. They were cold and exhausted, and it was difficult to relax. They could see the stars. They were so close that you could touch them. The world shows you how small and weak and insignificant you are and how temporary. And in that moment, breathing was a reminder that they were alive. Moment to moment, breath to breath was all that mattered. And that's what they would live for. The next breath, the next step. The temperatures dropped so low that their water bottle shattered from the cold. They huddled together to keep themselves warm, but the cold was torture. In the morning, they placed their shoes in the sun to thaw, ate, and then began to climb up again. The incline was steep and the slopes were unclimbable. And as they wound their way up, Nando thought of the altitude of falling off the mountain. Death was at every corner. One slip, 1 second of bad judgment. That would be it. Eventually, all he could do was focus on trusting himself to climb. Everything disappeared because the only thing that mattered was that he climbed well. They didn't know how they kept going. They shivered uncontrollably from fatigue and cold, and on the verge of collapse, the only thing that drove them was survival. They made camp that night when Roberto said, "We will die climbing. The mountain is too high." But what can we do? Go back. Go back to die? The only thing we know for sure is that Chile is to the west. After more discussion, Nando and Tintin decided to climb to see how far the peak was while Roberto stayed behind. They climbed as the mountain became steeper, but as they climbed above the ridge's edge and standing on a gloomy rock, it dawned on Nando that there was no more mountain at the top. He made it. They had made it.
Oh my God.
He could
That
see
must
from
have
this
felt so
height.
good. No, are you gonna, Karina?
I'm gonna make it not great.
Oh no!
Shut up.
About that.
Just fucking
Love
say
this
it.
for you. Just tell us now.
Yeah. She said, just fucking say it.
Okay. So yes, they made it to the top of the mountain, but the issue was that they realized how deep into the mountain range they were. So in the beginning, whenever they crashed, the pilot had said they made it past a certain point. So this whole time, Nando's thinking that they're close enough to where Chile's to the west, and all they have to do is like go down and there's like a village there or something. Like they think that they're at the edge of the mountain range.
No, they're
Oh.
hopeful. That's way too hopeful.
They're not. They're like in the middle of the mountain range. Like you can't see shit. All you see is mountain. Mountain everywhere. He could see from this height they were in the middle of a vast mountain range. So where do you go from there? When you're trying to find people, when you're trying to find civilization, and all you see is mountain, more of what you've been tortured by for the past 2 months.
Hmm.
And you're sitting here thinking, like, all I got to do is go down this mountain. The feeling of hopelessness was overwhelming. The mountains would overtake them, and their loved ones would never know how hard they worked to get back home. When I read that, I cried. I was like, that's when I was at the Starbucks trying not to lose it in front of old people. Every dream evaporated in the thin mountain air. The only thing that could cut the despair was Nando's love for his father.
Oh my God.
The memory of him filled Nando with so much joy that he realized that the mountains, however powerful, were not stronger than his love for his father.
Because that's the only person he has left, too.
It's
Stop
him
it.
and his sister, and that's it. Yeah.
Oh.
He said, "Love is our only weapon. Love can turn life into a miracle and draw meaning from suffering and fear." It gave him the strength to decide to keep walking until all the life was out of him. They told Roberto to climb up, and when he made it to the summit, he said, "Well, we're finished. We're fucked."
Oh.
Yeah, because like he's up there and he's like, "Oh, more?
Yeah.
Okay. More rocks? Cool."
But he's not wrong.
Mm-hmm. On an unrelated note, I feel like my storytelling has really gotten so much better.
No, really. I like
That's
it.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good. It's
Good.
good.
I'm glad you're improving.
Thank God.
I'm trying to not
About
be
time.
sad, okay? Yeah. Because now
And
I'm
if
sad.
I know. All
I'm
right,
just
let's
saying
go.
it could be worse.
It could be. We could be on a mountain. Anyway, so now they're back in the middle of the mountains. and they could see through to a valley where the mountains ended. So they could see far enough away where they're like, oh, there's less snow over there.
That's nice.
Yeah. Good for them.
You're right.
Oh God.
No.
Ooh,
But honestly, I mean, yeah.
good.
Less
Hmm.
snow, less cold, right? No?
Yes, but like they that means that's where they want to go because that means less cold, more people.
Yes.
Whew.
I'm also wondering, which like obviously this is just something that crossed my mind, but like I wonder if when they got to the top, like in their mind, because obviously, like you said, they had this like premeditated like scenario of what they thought was gonna be there. But I wondered
Hmm.
if like when they got to the top, they were like, we just should have went down, like versus going up. Or like would it have been better if we went down the mountain? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Versus going up or
Yeah, I
like
would
I
always
mean
be
how to like I'm sure there's always that what if, but it was like, but what if we went down and then obviously I mean you're still in the middle of nowhere, so
yeah, but then
what's
they
the
wouldn't have
point?
known where they were going either.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
That's
what
so
if to
scary. Yeah,
everything.
you just have to go with it and
Hope that you're making the right choice.
yeah,
And it's terrifying because it's like every action that you take, your entire life is dependent on that action.
yeah.
Which like,
That's
okay,
really scary too.
that
Or
is
like that can be
scary.
very scary.
Well, because like for me right now, if I decide to eat pizza or pasta for dinner, like that's not a life or death situation. But like if for 2 months every decision you make is a life or death situation, like I'm tired thinking about it.
That's
Yeah.
exhausting, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's very exhausting.
Okay, so they could see where the mountains end, but since it was so much farther than they had anticipated, they decided, Roberto and Nando, that they were going to send that third boy, Tintin, back so that Roberto and Nando could eat his food and use his supplies, and it would make their stuff last longer so that they could make that journey. So that they were going to keep going.
I would be pissed if they were like, I'm sending you back because
If you're the guy they send back.
now you have to climb down that whole fucking mountain by yourself.
I know. And also, like, I
Without your
had to climb
stuff.
up the whole mountain. Yeah, exactly. You got nothing. Not even the sleeping bag.
Or
But it
just
is it is easier to go downhill than it is go to go uphill.
I feel like it's also kind of more dangerous though, yeah. I don't want to be Tintin.
I do,
no, me neither.
I don't know who I want to be. None of these people, actually. None of them.
Well, definitely not him right now. So that's all I got. No food, and you gotta go back.
And then you got it when you go back, you got to figure out how to survive from
And
there.
you also don't know what base camp looks like at this point either. Like, are you going back and everyone's dead? So now you're there by yourself? You don't know. I'm just saying.
I would not want to be a lone survivor. I know we said that in part one. I do not want to be a lone
Mm-mm.
survivor. I would just, at that point, what? Why? Why?
Just
I
let me
would
stay with
probably
you.
go crazy. Yeah.
I,
Hmm.
I'd
I'll
rather
stop
us be
eating. I'll just come
snarky
with
to
you.
each other. Yeah.
I'll stop eating, I promise.
Just don't make me go back down the mountain.
I don't want to go. Okay. In the morning. Okay, so what I didn't write in my notes was that for a minute, Roberto and Nando were like fighting each other because they were like, no, we have to go back. And he's like, why? We're gonna die if we go back. And Roberto's like, we're dying if we go forward. And so they just kept arguing with each other. And he was like, I'm gonna go on. Nando was like, I'm gonna go on. You can choose to join me or you can stay here. Those are your options. Like, or you can go back, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
go on. And in the morning, that's when Roberto decided to stay with Nando and told Tintin to go back down the mountain. But now they have to go down the mountain. They eased themselves over the ledge and began to make the way down. The view down from the mountain was daunting. It was steep and dizzying. They would be climbing down towards the clouds. I'm going to
Oh,
reiterate, we're going to walk down to the clouds.
To the clouds. Damn, they're
are
so
they
fucking
real?
high up, dude. Yeah, the clouds
Yes.
are real. Oh, yeah.
Oh, if you didn't know, I'm starting a conspiracy theory that clouds aren't real 2024 because clouds aren't real.
Neither are the birds, so jot those two things down.
There's just something weird about there's some clouds that just like look real fake, is all I have
Seeding.
to say.
Have you heard of cloud seeding?
Oh God, the emails.
I'm telling you, it's the
That's what
government.
they're making clouds. I don't know, but they look photoshopped.
They are. Cloud seeding. Check it out.
Clouds aren't real.
Clouds aren't real.
See, I told you it's great. You could use that's gonna can we make
That's
that a
gonna be a sticker.
yes? I will put it on my water bottle. I was like, can we please make this a sticker? Clouds aren't real. Anyway, so what you climbing towards, Nando? Focus. So rocks that look sturdy would break away from under their feet, leaving them scrambling for places to hold. Also, that would suck. Imagine going down. Oh, shit, that was a real rock. Their only thoughts were in surviving the next step. The rocks turned into snow, and as Nando gazed down at the sleek surface, okay,
Why don't they just use their fake snowshoes as a sled?
he put down one of the seat cushions, held
Stop.
on to his walking stick, and decided to sled down the surface. I love how you always time your stuff so perfectly.
I know. That was real good.
You like how I didn't say anything and just continued the story?
See, that's proof right there. Now I believe you. Birds aren't real.
See, I'm telling you.
That's all I needed.
I knew it.
Immediately he knew he had messed up because the surface of the snow was slick and hard. So he just was sliding just fast.
Oh, no, that's even scarier.
But
Well,
he has a pull for braking.
Oh,
No
that's
brakes
true.
on this train.
He tries. He tries, okay? He does try. He quickly reached an alarming velocity. He says in the book that he used to ride his like scooter, around town, and he goes,
Sure.
I was easily going 60 miles per hour.
Yeah, that's easy. Easy day.
Hmm. He only stopped when he slammed into a snowbank.
He made it to the bottom then. No?
Well, like a rock with a
Oh,
bunch of snow on it.
fuck
So
yeah.
luckily there was enough snow to pad it, and he didn't hit the rock.
Not concussed. Good job,
No,
boy.
but also like the snow patted him. But he
Good.
did try to stop himself with the stick and his feet, and like nothing was helping.
At least he tried, though,
Yeah.
honestly. That was a good
At least
try.
he was
Good
sitting
effort.
down.
Yes. Not like just slid down somehow. The deep snow softened the blow, and he survived. And he could hear Roberto yelling and waving his arm. So then Nando waves his arms at Roberto and was like, I'm alive, not dead. Because imagine seeing your dumb friend being like, are you fucking kidding me? That would literally happen. It would be me and Nev walking down this fucking hill, and I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me, Nevada?
Yeah,
He is
honestly.
down the hill. Could have
One of
died. If anyone was gonna do it, it would be you, and I would be like,
saved hours though, honestly.
Oh, that means I would have been Tintin and y'all would have sent me back.
Stina, that means I would have been Tintin.
They would have been like, sorry, Chris, you gotta go, girl. We know you ain't gonna eat the people. Go back.
Stop it. Uh,
We had this conversation earlier. We know you're not gonna eat the people. Almost choked on my Mountain Dew rum.
stop.
Okay, Nando
Honestly,
rested.
though, to
Oh,
your
go ahead.
point, it would have been
Mhm.
Nev.
Oh,
Nev would have
100%.
been like, guys,
100%.
I've been like, I
I
do
got
this on my
this.
snowboard all the time. I got
Like,
it.
I literally, I feel like I can sense this. I don't know if they're still alive, but like, if reincarnation is real, no, Nando is still alive. But I'm just saying, 100%, it would be Nev.
It would. You're right. I would try it, honestly, because like,
I feel like
what
you're
what am
very
I gonna
sure.
lose?
Well, yeah, and I feel like you're very sure of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like you weigh your options. So I feel like you'd be like, guys, I ever thought about it.
It's gonna be
I'm
fine.
good. Yeah.
It'll be fine. If anything, I'll bail. See, that's where he messed up. He didn't bail. I don't know. I don't know
He
what the mountain
tried.
looked
I
like.
think he tried, but it was like he was already sliding. He already had the velocity.
It makes sense. See, that velocity got him.
Motion in motion keeps motion in. That's what the Newton's law say or whatever.
I've seen my friends snowboard at least at 70 miles per hour. So I'm like, if he would have caught edge, maybe I'd try to cut edge.
Well,
But
the issue
honestly,
where they were is it was so rocky. That's what
the
he was concerned about,
the bank made the most sense though, that he hit a bank. I'm like,
and
yeah,
just stopped.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
See, I would have tried that.
The
Aim for
only
the
thing
bank.
that saved him was the snow was so thick
Yeah.
that he just patted himself. Yeah.
Yeah. God was looking out for him. If you don't, I mean,
The
spirit,
whole, I
whatever,
mean, the
the
whole
universe,
thing.
really. Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, yeah.
and throughout the book, you hear him. He does talk about like that voice in your head that's like, "Hey, you need to do this. You need to do this."
You got to
Like,
listen to that high, and that's your higher self. You got to listen to it every time.
hmm
If the
well,
pussy
and that,
tingles, it's a yes.
yes. I mean, sometimes it doesn't tingle, but sometimes it is still a yes. Okay. So Nando rested while Roberto made it to him. On an unrelated note, I can say these names not
So
in
well.
English, but I just need to. That's the only way I can do it. It's either all English or Spanish. Like
No,
there's no
I
middle.
like it when you do it in
When you pronounce
Spanish.
them
I could
correctly.
not
Roberto.
I could
Yeah.
not sit here and take you seriously if you looked at me and you were like Roberto. Like I
Roberto.
would die.
Roberto. No, but then when
Why
I
do
go
you have a vampire accent?
Roberto.
Oh, it's
No, but
Italian.
then okay, here's the thing is I think I speak Spanish okay, and then I go to Mexico and my cousins are like, why does she talk like that? And I'm like, I'm trying.
Oh, they better leave you
You
alone.
better hit them. Give them the
Okay,
right, left
okay,
knuckles.
but then they'd be like, can you speak Spanish? Can you speak English to us? And I'm like,
Do
oh,
you not
now
know
I'm
how to
cool.
speak English?
Oh, now
Now
I'm
I'm
cool.
cool.
Now you want to know.
They're not gonna listen to this podcast. Or will they? It's fine.
They might.
When it
Uh,
becomes popular, sure.
I'm sure they'll be like, our cousin's famous. Anyway, so Nando's just chilling because he's by the snowbank and waits for Roberto to get to him. He just imagine I'd be so mad walking towards Nev.
You'd be
Damn
stuck
it.
walking by yourself.
Ugh. By late afternoon, they had made it two-thirds of the way down that mountain. They walked and they walked and they walked and they walked and they walked, only laying to rest when Roberto could convince Nando to stop. The Andes after dark were a thing of beauty. Even in the middle of his going through all of these terrible things, he's still looking at the world and being like, damn, it is a beautiful place. If I wasn't worried about getting eaten or dying.
Eaten of what?
Oh, and I didn't say this or I didn't write in my notes, but in the middle of it, Nando has a dream that his friends are coming towards him with a knife and they're trying to eat him.
Oh, crazy.
Oh,
And he
Poor
wakes up
guy.
and he's like, oh, I'm still alive. Nobody's trying to eat me.
kind of
Imagine
scary though, because I mean, you kind of are losing it. I mean,
sleep deprived, hungry, middle of nowhere,
mhm.
cold all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
And then that's already happened in the sense of like they've already eaten, and so it's like you're just in your
You're just
mind, you're like, it's just a matter of time.
until it's me.
Yeah.
Yep. Ugh. The snow glowed in the moonlight. The skies were indigo blue with clusters of blazing stars. And in the moments when he felt the limits of his strength, Nando would remember the promise that he had made to his father and then take one more step, then another, one step closer to his father and one step away from death. On December 18th, they heard the sound of roaring water. The water was at the base of an ice wall fed by tons of melting snow and spouting out of the wall. This is the birth of a river, said Roberto, and they made their way down and watched as the river grew wider and stronger. As they walked, Nando's shoe started to fall apart, and he wondered who would give out first, himself or the shoe. Later
Oh,
on that day, I know, they started to see trees and in the horizon some cows. They kept walking, finding signs of life and humanity, a horseshoe, cow droppings, tree stump, and as they went on, they found a small herd of cows. As they walked, Roberto was overtaken by diarrhea so painful he could not walk.
Mm.
And so he begged for rest. Fernando made him keep walking, and so he's like hunched over and suffering, and but he kept going. Roberto kept going.
I
Eventually
love
they
that.
decided, I know, he was like, I'm gonna keep doing it. And in the book he says, and at that moment I knew I picked the right companion.
oh.
I
Even
know,
with all their bickering, they
I
knew.
know. They're like a married couple. Very sad. Okay, they decided to rest, and Nando decided to explore the area. He found a river and could see cows on the other side, but the river was too deep and fast to cross. They were hungry, and the little meat they had left was going bad in the warmer temperatures. Because remember, they're not up on the mountain, all up on the top of the mountain anymore. It's warm now. They didn't have the strength to kill any of the cows. And also, they were discussing it and they were like, well, we can't kill the cow because then the farmer that finds the dead cow isn't going to help us because we killed their cow. Imagine. Well, now I'm not going to help you.
Good God. I don't even know what to say.
Imagine being that petty. How awful. Anyway. And they didn't have the strength to do it anyway, so it didn't matter.
Oh,
Nando was on his
fair.
way to find firewood when Roberto yelled, Nando, I see a man. Yeah. Run down to the river. Also, Nando was nearsighted, so he couldn't actually see the man. And so the whole time Roberto's like, go to the left. Go to the nope, nope, left, right, nope, nope. And he still
No.
he can't see him. But remember Roberto's sick, so he can't go and find the guy.
Hmm.
So he's just like curled up like, no, turn. They heard the sound of a human voice. The rider on horseback had seen them, and as they saw him disappear in the shadows, he shouted, Mañana. So they could hear him yell, tomorrow, like, I'm coming back tomorrow. And so they built a fire and lay down to rest, and for the first time in the whole ordeal, Nando felt real hope. I know,
It's
I
not gonna
know.
end. I know we get a happy ending.
I
Kind
know.
of.
Wait, are we towards the end?
This
Is the light at the end of the tunnel is coming? Okay.
It gets I can't think of like
it
there's
gets
like good
weird.
moments. No, we're good. It's
Oh,
no more avalanches, is all I gotta say.
a girl, what?
Like there's not more traumatic events.
Okay.
On December 21st, the 10th day of their journey, they glanced across the river and saw three men sitting in front of the fire. So it took them 10 days to get from the wreckage to where they're at right now. Nando ran down to meet them, and he tried to shout, but the river was too loud. He gestured with his hands, a plane crashing, but the man just stared at him. The man across the river took a paper from his pocket, scribbled on it, and tied it to a rock. Then he tossed it across the river to Nando. There will be a man coming later. Tell me what you want. All Nando had to write was a stick of lipstick he found in his mother's luggage, so the man tossed a pencil attached to another rock back to Nando, and Nando wrote on the man's previous note, I came from a plane that fell in the mountains. I am from Uruguay. We have been walking for 10 days. My friend is injured, and there are still 14 people injured at the top of the mountain. We are weak. When will you come back? Summoning all the strength he had left, Nando tossed the rock where it bounced at the edge of the river and rolled onto the bank. He talks about how, like, when he threw the rock, he realized how weak he had gotten and the fear that he had because he didn't know if it was going to make it all the way across the river. The man read the note when it got to him and then tossed Nando some bread. At around 9 a.m., another man came, and this time on the side of the river that they were on. His name was Armando Cerda. He gave them cheese, and they helped Roberto onto Armando's mule and led them to where the stream could be crossed. Our friends are still in the mountain, said Nando. Sergio has gone for help. Sergio Catalan was the man on horseback that had spotted them the night before. The nearest police outpost was about 10 hours away on horseback. They went to the huts where the men who tended the sheep stayed at. So these were just guys that were working the land, taking care of the sheep, and they were the ones that found Nando and Roberto. Sergio has gone for help. Sergio Catalan was the man on horseback that had spotted them the night before. Nice. The nearest police outpost was about 10 hours away on horseback. So they had to wait for him to go get the police help. They went to the huts where the men who tended the sheep stayed at, and they gave them milk and cheese and prepared them a dinner of beans, macaroni, and bread. I'll be specific.
Mm.
They ate
I bet he
everything.
remembered that because that was their first real meal.
Oh, for sure. Yes, I would remember food. Food I remember. Food
Especially
is
with
so
it being
important.
like heavy carbs too, but like food like that is always very like it's normally really good too. Like macaroni is
Uh-huh.
always really
Comforting.
good. It's comforting. Yeah,
Ooh.
it's like
Yeah.
heart or it's what am I trying to say? Not heart. Yeah, hearty. It's like very filling.
Yeah. Yeah.
They ate everything and had seconds, and then they slept. When they woke, it was earlier in the evening that day. And when I read that, I was like, what are you talking about? But when they got like, it was 9 a.m. when they ended up at the hut. So they just like went to
Mm,
rest. Yeah.
mm. I
They were
can't believe
eating.
they
Go ahead.
rested. They finally felt good, but I'm like also like, get back out there. Your friends are still freaking.
Throughout this whole thing, Nando continuously tells them, my friends need help because he's thinking of his friends that are super sick and that he
Yeah.
didn't think we're going to make it.
Yeah.
Because I left it out, but at this point, he's seen a lot of his friends die
Yeah.
and and he's talked to, like, I left out quite a few that died and that he had a relationship with. I mean, he was on a team with them, he knew them all. Like,
Yeah.
he's already lost enough friends, you know?
Yeah.
So they were eating lunch when two Chilean policemen ran up the trail to the hut. The police asked the names for survivors, but Nando refused. Many of those back at camp were near death, and Nando didn't want to give their families false hope that then they would have to lose their sons a second time if they had
Yeah.
died.
Oh my gosh.
The soonest they would be able to send a helicopter back to camp was the next day, and Nando was worried that the survivors were running out of time. The next morning was foggy, and he worried it would stop the rescue efforts because the helicopters wouldn't be able to fly out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Imagine like that you've got rescue, and now it's like, now it's too foggy. We can't fly.
Just like the original reason they shouldn't have been flying.
I know. That was more the wind, but yes, for sure.
Okay, that too. Yeah, sorry.
I guess the wind exists. Maybe it will burn off soon, replied Roberto. They were eating when they heard the sounds of reporters
Oh
running
my
towards the
God.
hut.
Good God.
They were snapping pictures, scribbling on notepads, yelling questions. Journalists from all over the world were there to question them, and the captain of the police allowed interviews to continue, and then he took them aside. The fog is heavy, and I don't think the helicopters are going to come today. The police decided to send them down to the city of Puente Negro to wait for the rescue team to arrive. They had just started to get on horseback when they heard and saw three huge helicopters from the Chilean Air Force land in the meadow near the huts. Medics from the helicopters came to examine them. Roberto needed their help badly, but Nando refused help. He searched for the pilots to express to them the importance of rescuing their friends and like how time sensitive it was.
Yeah.
We can't fly in the fog. We have to wait for it to lift. But what can you tell me about the location of the plane? Using a map, Nando traced back the route he and Roberto had used. They're on the far side of this mountain. That's the high Andes in Argentina. That's more than 70 miles from here. You couldn't have possibly crossed the Andes on foot. Impossible. Are you sure you understand this map? I'm sure. When the fog lifts, we'll take off and you can let us know how to get there. 3 hours later, the pilots felt safe enough to fly, and that's when
Yay.
he came with them to help guide them.
Good.
As Nando looked out the window from the plane, he made eye contact with Roberto, the only other person in the world who would know the terror he felt about flying through the Andes again.
Yeah.
Like, that would be so scary. Like, I literally just made it out of this bitch, and now you're taking me back.
I'd be so afraid that like the helicopter would crash. I'm like, oh my God, you can't
Exactly.
take
Yeah.
me back there.
Severe trauma,
I've been
PTSD.
in a car crash, and like, I was scared of cars for forever. I cannot imagine being like, getting another one, go into the mountain. Ugh, no. He guided them into the valley and followed the Chilean border into the Argentine Andes. Holy Jesus, said the pilot as he stared at the mountains. He stared down the snow-capped peak and the black slopes. You didn't come down through this. Yeah, this is the way. This is the way we came. But the pilot was disbelieving. The air was turbulent and the helicopter danced. The pilots remained skeptical that the helicopter would be able to reach such heights. They gathered speed and began to climb. Every bolt of the helicopter was pushed against its limits. Nando was reminded of the day that the plane crash happened.
Mm.
Everyone in the helicopter
Mm.
was pale and looked stressed as the helicopter pushed to reach the elevation needed. We can't make it over the mountain. We have to find a way around. It was rough as they banked to the right and flew over smaller peaks. The pilot found his way around the mountains. They must be up there, Nando said, pointing east. I don't see anything. And I don't think we can land. The wind is too bad. There it is. There's the wreckage on the left. The pilot battled strong turbulence above the glacier, but his fear faded as a line of tiny figures came out of the fuselage. The slope was too steep for landing, so he hovered and the rescuers jumped out. They could only take a couple people back with them into the helicopter, but they had dropped down supplies, and rescuers and medic had stayed. They put those who were sickest and most injured on the helicopters, and in less than 20 minutes, they landed near the huts again. Carlitos grabbed Nando. You made it. You made it. And then he reached into his pocket and drew out the little red shoe.
Oh,
Oh, the
and now
symbol
they
of
have the
hope.
pair. Yeah.
I know. Ugh, my heart. Anyway. The mountain would be too much to fly at night, but the medics and rescue workers had stayed on the mountain to make sure that the rest of the boys that stayed back were safe. They took those they already had rescued to a military base where a team of doctors and nurses would help them. I just remembered what's coming. Okay. Whew. They showered, and Nando could see what he had become. This man, who had once been an athlete, was all bones without a trace of muscle anywhere. There he finally let it sink in that he was safe, that he had made it. And then Nando heard a woman outside. My brother is here. I need to see him. He stepped into the hallway in time to see his sister Graciela pushing past a group of hospital workers. She ran into his arms, and when he looked up at the end of the hallway, standing motionless with a slim, bowed figure, it was his father.
Oh my God. The
Nando
person
walked.
who kept him going.
I
I
was gonna
know.
say, I'm sure when he told his dad that story that
Ah,
it brought
Nan,
them even closer. I mean, you know,
what do you even say to your kid? Like, what do you
yeah.
even say? Nando walked over and carried the dad, saying, "You see, Dad, I'm still strong enough to carry you." They held each other for a long time, and Nando felt him tremble as he wept. "Y mami? Y Susi?" Nando didn't say anything, and his
Hmm.
father sagged as he understood. He told his sister and father the story of their ordeal, including what they had done to survive. The rest of the survivors were flown to Santiago on December 23rd. Their return was known as the Christmas miracle. There was a party on Christmas Eve in the hotel where they were staying before they got to go home. And Carlitos turned to Nando saying, "I told you we would be home for Christmas."
So sassy.
I know, so cute. During the final years of his life, Nando's dad, Seller, designed a stainless steel box, which was built by the metal worker of their hardware company. When it was done, Seller instructed that upon his father's death, Nando would have the body cremated, fill the box with his ashes, and have it carried to the Andes on a shrine to the rocky ledge in the valley where the plane had crashed in 1972.
Hmm.
Nando's father died in 2008 at the age of 91. His ashes rest in the Andes Mountains next to his wife and daughter. 50 years after the crash, Nando lives with the wisdom he learned on that frozen glacier. Even as we suffer, life is still worth living. We are humans. We all suffer. We all one day face our own personal Andes. The only way to make sense of those difficult truths is to love. Love is our guide and protection. It is our one true form of survival.
Mm.
And that is our story on the Andes Mountain plane crash.
That is such a bittersweet moment.
Yeah.
It reminds you
My,
to be grateful.
my heart was
Oh, for sure.
broken.
Yeah.
Uh, like literally, it feels like it's broken right now. It's so sad. But like, I, it's such a good story. It sucks so much, but it's such a good story. Like,
I think what I love about hearing of stories like this, and I guess what I'm getting at, because like I mean a lot of stories that revolve around very heavy things like this are normal people, right? This could
yeah,
happen to anybody. And to see a normal person, let alone a technically young adult, literally still in the teen ages, survive something that was so, I mean, the worst of worst situations that you probably could ever be put in. And to
Mhm.
see him overcome that um, is amazing.
Well, and for me, the part, like I said, I've read this before. This is my second time reading it, and I mean, I'm reading it more in depth because I'm taking notes on it and stuff. But I didn't realize how, like, the first time you're just like absorbing the story, and then when I read it again, I was like, so much, so much of his determination and his willingness and fight to survive stems from the fact that he loved his father, and that was it. That is all he needed. Like, he didn't know he was if he was going to survive. He didn't know what the next breath was going to bring, but like
All you
he
need is love.
I know. And it's like, God, that is so beautiful. That is so strong. That is like, and then it makes you wonder, like, would I do that? Do I love someone enough that like that much? And it's like, yes, I do. And like, God, how beautiful is that that I love people enough that I would climb mountains for them? Like, ah, I'm good. I'm not crying. Uh,
Let it out.
this isn't therapy, Nev. I do not let it out. One day. But anyway, it's just I thought it was such a beautiful, very sad story.
Thanks for sharing with us.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you for joining me on this very long adventure with my wild drinks, Christina. And as always, thank you, our listeners, for joining us on another episode of Sippin' Saga Society, where we tell stories worth telling. If you have any histories, mysteries, or stories you think should be told, feel free to DM us on Instagram or Facebook at sippinsaga_society or visit our website at sippinsaga.com. Also, if you have any drink recommendations, we're always down to try a new beverage of any kind. So,
Give us a
but
recommendation.
yes, I love beverages. But thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
I hope y'all enjoyed that one.
I did.
It's
I'm
very
making a
sad.
note. Clouds aren't real.